My name is Rachel Chen, and I've spent the last 8 years building something my family thought was impossible. A successful life completely independent of them. Growing up in the Rodriguez household meant understanding one fundamental truth. Family hierarchy was everything. Dad owned 3 auto dealerships across the state. Mom managed the family image, like it was her full-time job. My older brother Marcus worked as Dad's right hand, learning the business, attending the country club events, playing the role of golden child with practiced ease. Me. I was the disappointment. Rachel's going into computers, Mom would say at dinner parties, her tone suggesting I'd announced plans to join the circus. We tried to guide her toward something more appropriate. Marketing perhaps. Sure. But she insists on this technical path. Dad was more direct. Waste of money, that degree. You'll be unemployed in 2 years, begging to work reception at one of the dealerships. I graduated with a degree in computer science. Got a job at a mid-sized tech firm. Lived in a modest apartment. Drove a 7-year-old Honda. Attended family events when required, smiled politely through the condescension, and built my real life in the spaces they never bothered to look. Because while my family saw just computers, I saw opportunity. Within 3 years I'd moved from software engineer to team lead. By year 5 I was director of technology at a Fortune 500 company. By year 7 I'd launched my own consulting firm, Chen Solutions, specializing in enterprise software implementations for major corporations. My client list included 3 healthcare systems, 2 manufacturing conglomerates, and the largest logistics company in North America. My annual revenue hit 8 figures. My personal net worth exceeded what Dad's dealerships made in a good year. I told my family none of this. To them I was still Rachel the computer girl, who did something with websites, and couldn't possibly understand real business. They had no idea that the modest apartment was a choice. A penthouse would have raised questions I didn't want to answer. The old Honda was strategic. Luxury cars would have shattered the carefully maintained image. I wasn't hiding out of shame. I was watching Mom borrow money from friends for her shopping habits while claiming Dad's dealerships were thriving. Watching Marcus make increasingly reckless business decisions that Dad covered up. Watching them build their image on credit cards and borrowed time while looking down on everyone they considered beneath them. I was watching and waiting for the moment their carefully constructed world would demand something from mine. That moment came on a Tuesday morning in March. The lawsuit papers arrived via certified mail. I signed for them in my office, my assistant hovering nervously. "Miss Chen? Is everything okay?" I scanned the documents. My parents were suing me for $2.3 million, claiming I'd borrowed money from a family trust fund that supposedly existed. Their attorney was Richard Morrison from Morrison and Associates, one of the most aggressive litigation firms in the state. "Everything's fine, Sarah. Just family business." I recognized the strategy immediately. Create a legal claim based on fabricated evidence, force me into an expensive legal battle I supposedly couldn't afford, then offer to settle for whatever cash they thought I had. It was a shakedown dressed up in legal paperwork. What they didn't know was that Morrison and Associates had been Chen Solutions' corporate counsel for the past 4 years. We paid them $840,000 annually in retainer fees alone. Richard Morrison personally handled our contract negotiations, our intellectual property filings, our corporate litigation. He had no idea his new clients were my parents. I called my general counsel, Jennifer Park. "Jen, I need you to look up something for me. Do we have an ethical conflict policy in our legal services agreement with Morrison and Associates?" "Of course. Standard clause." "Why?" "They just filed a lawsuit against me personally. On behalf of my parents." Silence on the other end. "Then, they don't know you're their largest client, do they?" "Not yet." "Rachel, we can't have our corporate counsel actively suing our CO. That's not just unethical, it's malpractice-level conflict of interest." "I know. That's why I'm asking about our options." Jennifer's tone shifted to pure legal mode. "We have 30-day termination rights with cause. Conflict of interest absolutely qualifies as cause. I can have termination papers ready in an hour." "Hold off on that. I want to see how this plays out first." "You're going to court?" "I'm going to let them dig their hole a little deeper. Then we'll discuss termination." The preliminary hearing was set for 3 weeks later. I showed up alone carrying a simple briefcase. No attorney, no legal team. Just me in a conservative navy suit that cost more than my family would have guessed but looked appropriately modest for a struggling tech worker. Mom and Dad arrived with Marcus in tow, all three of them dressed like they were attending a country club gala. Richard Morrison met them at the courthouse steps, his $3,000 suit and confident smile suggesting he'd handled 1,000 cases like this. Inside the courtroom, I sat at the defendant's table. Alone. Morrison approached me before the judge arrived. "Ms. Chen? I'm Richard Morrison. I'll be representing your parents today." "I know who you are, Mr. Morrison." He smiled, the kind of smile that probably worked on intimidated defendants. "I see you're not represented by counsel. I want you to know this doesn't have to be adversarial. If you're willing to discuss settlement terms, I'm sure we can reach an agreement that works for everyone. I'm representing myself today." His smile widened slightly. "Easy prey. Well, that's certainly you're right. Though I should warn you, family litigation can be complex. You might want to consider." "I'll manage. Thank you." He returned to the plaintiff's table where my parents sat. Mom leaned in, whispering something. Morrison nodded, glancing back at me with what looked like pity. Judge Harrison took the bench. Case number 2024 CV8847, Rodriguez et al. Versus Chen. "Mr. Morrison, you're representing the plaintiffs." "Yes, Your Honor." Morrison stood, radiating confidence. "We're here today seeking $2.3 million in restitution for funds my clients allege were misappropriated from a family trust by the defendant." "And Ms. Chen, you're representing yourself?" "Yes, Your Honor." The judge looked skeptical. "Ms. Chen, you understand you're facing a significant civil claim. Are you certain you don't want legal representation?" "I'm certain, Your Honor." "Very well. Mr. Morrison, present your opening statement." Morrison stood, approaching the bench with theatrical precision. "Your Honor, this is a straightforward case of family trust betrayal. The Rodriguez family established a trust fund in 2015 for the benefit of all family members. The defendant, Rachel Chen, who took her mother's maiden name in an apparent attempt to distance herself from the family, systematically withdrew funds from this trust without authorization. I watched him perform, noting how he positioned the papers, how he gestured toward my parents for sympathetic effect. The total amount withdrawn, $2.3 million over a period of 7 years. My clients have bank statements, trust documents, and witness testimony proving these unauthorized withdrawals. We're asking the court to order full restitution plus legal fees." He sat down. Mom was actually dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Dad looked appropriately stern and wounded. Judge Harrison turned to me. "Ms. Chen, your response?" I stood calmly. "Your Honor, I deny all allegations. There was no family trust. There were no unauthorized withdrawals. I'm prepared to prove that every document the plaintiffs have submitted is fabricated." Morrison actually laughed. A small, condescending chuckle. "Your Honor, the defendant is claiming that bank records are fabricated? That notarized trust documents are fake? This is exactly the kind of desperate defense we expected from." "Mr. Morrison," the judge interrupted. "Please refrain from editorializing. Ms. Chen, you're claiming the trust never existed." "Correct, Your Honor. And I can prove it. We'll hear evidence shortly. Mr. Morrison, call your first witness." The plaintiff, Mrs. Carmen Rodriguez. My mother took the stand, her performance Oscar-worthy. Tears, trembling voice, the whole production. "Mrs. Rodriguez," Morrison began gently, "can you tell the court about the family trust established in 2015? "Yes," Mom said, voice breaking. "My mother, Rachel's grandmother, established the trust before she passed. It was meant to provide for all her grandchildren equally. Rachel was supposed to receive her portion when she turned 30, but we discovered she'd been taking money out early without telling anyone." "And how did you discover this?" "Our family accountant noticed discrepancies. When we investigated, we found Rachel had been systematically draining the account. It was a good story. Well rehearsed. Completely false." Morrison submitted the evidence. Bank statements showing a trust account with my grandmother's name, withdrawal records with forged signatures, even notarized documents that looked official. Judge Harrison reviewed them carefully. "Ms. Chen, do you have any response to these documents?" "Yes, Your Honor." "May I approach?" At the defendant's table, I opened my briefcase and pulled out my phone. I texted Jennifer. Execute termination. Now. Then I addressed the court. Your Honor, I'd like to establish some facts. First, my grandmother passed away in 2012, not 2015. Second, she left her entire estate to a children's hospital in her will. Public record, easily verified. Third, the bank account shown in these statements doesn't exist. Morrison stood. Your Honor, this is absurd. We have documentation. You have forgeries, Mr. Morrison. The account number on these statements? It belongs to a business account my father opened last year. The signatures? I have handwriting analysis ready to submit. The notary seal? Belongs to someone who lost their license in 2018. Mom's face had gone pale. Dad was whispering urgently to Marcus. Morrison recovered quickly. Your Honor, these are serious allegations that require serious proof. The defendant can't simply claim. His phone vibrated. Then again. He glanced down, frowned, and tried to ignore it. Judge Harrison was reviewing the documents I'd submitted. Ms. Chen, you're saying you have expert analysis of these signatures? I do, Your Honor. I also have my grandmother's actual will, death certificate dated 2012, and confirmation from First National Bank that the account number in question belongs to Rodriguez Auto Group's operating account. Morrison's phone was vibrating continuously now. He tried to silence it, his confident expression cracking. Mr. Morrison, the judge said. Is there a problem? No, Your Honor. Just. His phone actually rang, the sound echoing through the quiet courtroom. I apologize. If I could have just one moment. Make it quick. Morrison stepped into the hallway. Through the courtroom doors I could hear his voice rising in pitch. What? No, that's not. When? Who authorized? He returned 2 minutes later, his face ashen. Mr. Morrison? Judge Harrison looked annoyed. Are you ready to continue? Your Honor, I need to request a continuance. A conflict of interest has just come to my attention. What kind of conflict? Morrison looked at me, then at my parents, then back at the judge. I've just been informed that my firm's largest corporate client, Chen Solutions, has terminated our contract due to this case. The defendant, Ms. Chen, is the CEO and sole owner of Chen Solutions. We've been representing her company for 4 years while simultaneously suing her personally. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Harrison's expression went from annoyed to furious. You filed a lawsuit against your own client without knowing it? We had no idea that Rachel Chen and Chen Solutions were connected. She never disclosed. It's not her job to disclose, Mr. Morrison. It's your job to check for conflicts of interest before taking a case. This is legal malpractice 101. Mom found her voice. What is he talking about? Chen Solutions? Rachel, what is this? I remained seated, calm. I own a software consulting firm. Morrison and Associates has been our corporate counsel since 2020. They handle our contracts, our IP filings, all our legal work. Until 10 minutes ago, we paid them $840,000 annually. Dad stood up. That's impossible. You work in computers. You don't own. Sit down, Mr. Rodriguez, Judge Harrison ordered. Ms. Chen, is this true? Yes, Your Honor. I founded Chen Solutions 6 years ago. Current annual revenue is approximately $43 million. Morrison and Associates was our exclusive legal counsel until today. Morrison was gathering his papers frantically. Your Honor, I need to withdraw from this case immediately. This is an insurmountable conflict. You think? The judge's sarcasm was cutting. Mr. Morrison, you've wasted this court's time with fabricated evidence and a conflict of interest so obvious it borders on negligence. Motion to withdraw is granted. However, I'm also ordering you to submit a written explanation for how this happened within 48 hours. Yes, Your Honor. Mrs. Rodriguez, Mr. Rodriguez, you have 10 days to retain new counsel or this case will be dismissed with prejudice. Do you understand? Mom was staring at me like I was a stranger. Rachel, you own a company worth $40 million? $43 million in revenue, Mom. Net worth is higher. Different metric. Marcus had pulled out his phone, clearly Googling. His face went white. Oh my God. Dead she's. Forbes listed her as one of the top tech CEOs under 40. There are articles. She spoke at that conference in Singapore. Dad grabbed the phone, reading. His expression cycled through disbelief, shock, and something that might have been fear. Judge Harrison banged his gavel. We're adjourned. 10 days, Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez. Find legitimate counsel or drop this farce. I walked out of the courthouse alone. Behind me, I could hear my family in frantic discussion, Morrison trying to explain, Mom's voice rising in pitch. My phone rang. Jennifer. It's done, she said. Morrison and Associates received formal termination papers. Their managing partner called me personally, apologizing profusely. They're in full damage control. Good. Start vetting replacement firms. I want someone in place by end of week. Already on it. Rachel, are you okay? I'm fine. Your parents just tried to sue you for $2.3 million based on completely fabricated evidence. I know. Using your own lawyers. I know. That's not fine. That's betrayal on multiple levels. I stopped at my car looking back at the courthouse. My family was still on the steps, Marcus showing Dad something else on his phone, Mom looking around like someone might be watching. Jen, they've been betraying me my whole life. This is just the first time it cost them something real. The fallout was immediate and comprehensive. Morrison and Associates managing partner called me personally within 6 hours, groveling. Miss Chen, please understand, Richard took this case without running it through our conflict check system. He's been suspended pending internal review. If there's any way we can salvage the relationship. There isn't. The financial impact to our firm. Chen Solutions represents 23% of our annual revenue. Losing you could mean layoffs, restructuring. You should have thought about that before suing me. Richard didn't know. That's my point. Your systems failed. Your due diligence failed. Your firm sued its own client. Why would I trust you with my legal work after that? I hung up. By the next day the story had leaked. Not publicly, not yet, but within the legal community word spread fast. Morrison and Associates had committed one of the most embarrassing errors possible. Firms started whispering. Some of Morrison's other clients quietly began reviewing their relationships. Richard Morrison himself left 3 voicemails. I deleted all of them without listening. My family meanwhile was scrambling. Marcus called first. Rachel, we need to talk. This is insane. You have to drop. I'm not dropping anything. You sued me. We didn't know you. Didn't know I what? Had money. So you only sue family members you think are too poor to fight back. That's not, look, this was Mom and Dad's idea. I tried to tell them it was stupid, but they wouldn't listen. You were sitting right there in the courtroom, Marcus. You're on the lawsuit papers. Because Dad made me. He said we were protecting the family legacy, that you'd taken money that wasn't yours. There was no money, Marcus. No trust fund. They made it all up. Silence. Then, what? The whole thing was fabricated. The bank accounts, the trust documents, all of it. They forged everything to create a legal case against me. More silence. Why would they do that? You really want me to answer that? He hung up. Dad called 2 hours later. His voice was controlled, but I could hear the edge underneath. Rachel, we need to discuss this situation like adults. I agree. You committed fraud, Dad. You forged documents, created fake bank records, and filed a frivolous lawsuit. Very adult. Don't be dramatic. This is family business. We can work it out. By work it out, you mean I should give you money so you drop the fake lawsuit? I mean we should sit down and discuss your obligations to this family. You've made quite a bit of money apparently. Money that came from opportunities this family provided. I don't owe you anything. I built my company with my own work, my own clients, my own skills. The same skills you told me were worthless. Rachel, don't be petty. Family helps family. Then why did you sue me for $2.3 million? Because he stopped. Recalibrated. Because we believed you'd taken money that belonged to the family. If we were wrong, then we'll drop the case. Simple. You'll drop the case because you can't afford a lawyer now. Morrison withdrew. And I'm guessing other firms will think twice before taking a case this obviously fraudulent. Are you threatening us? I'm stating facts. You fabricated evidence to sue your own daughter. Most lawyers won't touch that. This is ridiculous. You're blowing this completely out of proportion. I hung up on him mid-sentence. Mom showed up at my office 3 days later. Sarah, my assistant, called back nervously. Miss Chen? There's a Carmen Rodriguez here to see you. She says she's your mother. Should I send her back? Mom walked in wearing her charity luncheon outfit, designer dress, perfect hair, the kind of polished appearance she'd spent my whole childhood perfecting. She looked around my office with barely concealed surprise. Corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows. View of the entire downtown district. This is nice, she said finally. Thank you. You could have mentioned you worked somewhere like this. You never asked where I worked. She sat down without being invited. Rachel, this whole thing has gotten out of hand. The lawsuit was a mistake. Your father got some bad advice from Marcus about family trusts and inheritance law, and we overreacted. You forged documents, Mom. We thought you'd actually taken money. If we were wrong, we're sorry. But this vendetta you're on, destroying that law firm, making us look foolish. I didn't destroy Morrison and Associates. They destroyed themselves by suing their own client. And I didn't make you look foolish. You did that when you fabricated evidence. Don't talk to me like that. I'm still your mother. Then act like it. Mothers don't sue their daughters for $2.3 million based on lies. She stood abruptly. We need money, Rachel. The dealerships are struggling. Marcus made some investments that didn't pan out. We're behind on the country club fees, the house payment, everything. When we found out you had this company, we thought you could help. So you sued me? We thought if we could prove you owed the family money legally, then you'd have to pay. It seemed simpler than begging. The honesty was almost refreshing. Almost. Get out, Mom. Rachel. Get out of my office. You're not getting a penny from me. Not now, not ever. You spent my whole life telling me I was worthless, that my career was a joke, that I'd amount to nothing. Now you want my money? Get out. She left, her designer heels clicking across the hardwood floor. The 10-day deadline passed. No new lawyer contacted the court. No motion to continue the case. Nothing. Judge Harrison dismissed the lawsuit with prejudice, meaning they could never refile the same claim. He also issued sanctions against my parents for filing with fabricated evidence. $15,000 in court costs, payable to the court and to me. They didn't pay. I didn't push it. The money didn't matter. The message did. Morrison and Associates announced restructuring 2 weeks later. They laid off 6 associates, reduced partner salaries, and began desperately courting new corporate clients to replace the revenue gap I'd left. Richard Morrison resigned quietly. Last I heard, he was working at a much smaller firm in a different state. My family stopped calling. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Dad had sold one of the dealerships. That the country club membership had lapsed. That they'd downsized to a smaller house. I felt nothing about it. 6 months later, I was having lunch with Jennifer at a downtown restaurant when Marcus appeared at our table. Rachel, can we talk? Just 5 minutes. Jennifer started to stand. I can give you privacy. Stay, I told her. Then to Marcus, you have 3 minutes. He sat down looking exhausted. The family's falling apart. Dad's selling the last dealership. Mom's working retail at Nordstrom. They're getting divorced. I'm sorry to hear that. No, you're not. He wasn't wrong. Rachel, I know we screwed up. I know the lawsuit was insane. But they're our parents. You're just going to watch them lose everything. I watched them try to take everything from me, Marcus. I watched them forge documents and lie to a judge. I watched them spend 32 years telling me I was worthless. So yes, I'm going to watch them face the consequences of their choices. They made mistakes. They committed fraud. There's a difference. You have $40 million. $43 million in revenue. Different metric. But even if I had $1 billion, I wouldn't give them anything. Not because I can't afford it. Because they don't deserve it. He stood up, angry now. You know what? They were right about you. You're cold. You've always been cold. I'm strategic, Marcus. I learned that from watching Dad run his business. Cut the dead weight. Invest in what works. Protect your assets. Family business, right? He walked away. Jennifer waited until he was gone. Are you okay? I'm fine. That was brutal. It was honest. He studied me for a moment. Do you ever regret it? Not the lawsuit stuff. That was justified. But cutting them off completely. I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. They had 32 years to see me as something other than a disappointment. 32 years to ask about my life, my work, what I was building. They never did. They only came looking when they thought I had something worth taking. Fair enough. Besides, I added, I have family that matters. My team at Chen Solutions. Friends like you. People who see me for who I actually am, not who they want me to be. Jennifer raised her glass. To chosen family. I clinked my glass against hers. To chosen family. 2 years have passed since the lawsuit. Chen Solutions now has 127 employees. Annual revenue hit $68 million last year. We're expanding into international markets, opening an office in London next quarter. I bought a house finally, a real one, not the strategic modest apartment. It has 5 bedrooms, a home office, and a view of the mountains. I drive a Tesla now. I wear designer suits to client meetings. I stopped hiding my success because I realized I was never hiding it from my family. I was hiding it from myself, still believing on some level that they might be right about me. They weren't. I built something real. Something valuable. Something that helps people and generates wealth and creates opportunities for others. I did it without them. I did it despite them. And when they tried to take it from me using the very lawyers I employed, I protected what I'd built. Not with anger. Not with revenge. With strategy. With documentation. With the truth. Mom sends a Christmas card every year. I don't respond. Dad tried to connect on LinkedIn last month. I declined the request. Marcus got married. I wasn't invited. I didn't expect to be. Sometimes I wonder if they understand what happened. If they realize that the lawsuit wasn't the problem, it was just the final proof of something that had been true my whole life. They never saw me. They saw a reflection of their own disappointment, their own fears about status and worth and success. I'm not that reflection. I'm Rachel Chen, CEO of Chen Solutions, Forbes 30 Under 30 keynote speaker at international tech conferences. I'm the woman who built a multi-million-dollar company while her family insisted she was failing. I'm the daughter who remained calm while being sued for fabricated debts. I'm the person who proved that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success they can't touch, can't claim, can't diminish. It's a life built so well that their opinions simply don't matter anymore. And that's worth more than any lawsuit could ever take away.